What's the worst thing you've seen at a wedding? Pastor gave a long-winded and confusing speech during the service that was about all of his wives who had died, like 3 or 4 deceased wives. I don't remember the point of that story in relation to a wedding, but I do remember feeling very uncomfortable and wondering if the pastor was actually a serial killer. Brother of the groom got wasted on the mic. Remember when Dad got that chick pregnant in the Philippines and we found out we had a brother? At the reception, the bride and groom got into a horrible fight. The groom shoved the bride up against a wall by her neck, and then all hell broke loose. It was like the entire room erupted into a fist fight. Things were broken. People were hysterical. Like a scene from a movie. 90% of the guests spoke Spanish as their first language, and I speak very little Spanish, so to this day, I don't even know half of what instigated it or what was said. A guest collapsed, and the father of the bride had to perform CPR in his tux on the ground outside until the ambulance arrived. The father was a cardiologist, so at least he knew what he was doing. The groom's best friend, a woman, talked about how they were each other's safeties back in the day. Also called the bride's dog ugly. I am a guy. My sister got married. My dad gave a toast at the reception, saying that his daughter, the bride, was like the son he never had. Cut to all the attendees looking at my brother and me. The priest spent a good half-hour thanking the bride for choosing to stop living in sin. My cousin's bride went missing from the reception, which launched a search party. She was eventually located at a nearby bar with the ex-BF she'd been having an affair with for years. My idiot cousin stayed with her like a chump and cut off his entire family to make her happy. The stepmom gave a speech about how the groom, her stepson, wasn't allowed to smoke weed at his mom's house as a teenager, and how she had so much fun secretly smoking together anyway. The whole speech was basically bashing the groom's mom while making herself look good, but bad because yikes. The mom of the groom spoke for 27 minutes and shared a few gems. One was how he came back for one last suckle when his sibling was born. I don't think anyone needed to hear that. It was 27 minutes of cringe. My husband's coworker got married and had a very formal black tie reception. The groom proceeded to get so drunk, he vomited all over the head table and passed out. The mother of the bride ended up calling the ambulance. He spent the night in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. They were divorced within the year. The goofy-ass, Peter Griffin-looking groom absolutely demolished his cute, sweet little bride with cake. I'm talking one hand on the back of her head, the other literally grinding cake into her face as she struggled to break free. Her hair and makeup were ruined. Mother of bride is my mom's sister. All 5 of my mom's sisters fight bitterly since childhood. If left alone, the feud stays on a low simmer. A vindictive sister-in-law decided to make it her mission to crank it up to a roaring boil that day. The whole reception was all about the feud. My poor cousin. Next cousin who got married eloped. Someone tried to propose to his girlfriend. The best man almost hurled him out of a window. The bride, thank God, didn't see that, and neither did most of the other guests. The best man promptly walked the guy out of the hall with a hand over his mouth. The mother of the groom showed up wearing a literal, full white bridal gown. When the bridesmaid of honor accidentally spilled an entire glass of red wine down the front of it during cocktail hour, the mother screamed. She threw the cake she had on a little plastic plate. The pastor for my wedding asked if he could add comments to the ceremony. My now ex admired him as a pastor, so we agreed. Unfortunately, he'd been recently divorced, so his comments were all about how shiny the rings were today, but over time, they'd be dinged and scratched and dulled, just like our love.
It was so yikes.
My groom and I were crossing our eyes at each other and trying not to laugh. Maybe not the worst thing, but my mother brought her own cake to my reception after I asked her not to because she didn't like the cake we were providing. The groom's best man giving a 20-minute speech about how the bride used to be the hottest girl in their friend group while the bride was sitting right there. He ended it with, "But hey, you won, man." The silence after that speech was so loud I could hear the marriage slowly dying in real time. When the paid photographer's boob on her way to small dress fell out multiple times. She would just flop it back in their lap and put it back in. Humiliating and so unprofessional. After a very, very long wait for the food buffet, and after only about 20 minutes, our plates, which hadn't even been cleared yet, were snatched away right from under our noses. They were collected from everyone, and the buffet was dismantled because they were supposedly behind schedule. We were a group of 4 and decided to leave, even when the bride was sad about that. The couple got divorced 2 years later. The bride's mom getting up to give a speech talking about all of her daughter's previous boyfriends and how she wanted her to marry all of them. Went to my beloved ex-stepsister's wedding. My ex-stepdad, who had raped me when I was a teen, got pissed himself drunk and started following me around and trying to grope me while I tried to evade him without causing a scene. My ex-stepsister, who knew and was furious about the rape, noticed, intervened, and started yelling at him in the middle of the reception. I love her forever and ever. Bride passed out drunk in the bridal suite and the groom decided he deserved a wedding night, so he spent it with the bridesmaid. That was his argument when caught. Bartender served children champagne instead of sparkling cider. I was one of those children. Grinning, squinting face. Saw the groom make out with a bridesmaid right after the first dance. It got ugly fast.